Good evening. He was just minutes away from buying a gun to carry out a terror attack on the streets of London. But Edward Little's plan to shoot dead a Christian preacher was stopped in its tracks. The extremist, who converted to Islam while he was in prison, had been considering a mass gun attack during the Queen's funeral. But once he decided he did not have enough time, he changed his target to an event that was due to be held at Hyde Park's Speaker's Corner. Today, he was sentenced to life in prison after police arrested him in a cab that was heading for the capital. Cafo Patter has more.
3, 2, 1, strike, strike, strike.
They're on their way to catch a terrorist
Get him out!
who was planning a mass shooting in central London. Edward Little was just minutes away from buying a firearm from this organised crime group and using it on a Christian preacher who was speaking at Hyde Park.
No, carry on.
When questioned about his target, he had only these 2 words to say.
No comment.
And then assaulted his interrogators. Held down and remanded in custody, today he refused to attend his sentencing and hear the words that he's been jailed for life.
Having arranged the purchase of the gun, you set out from Brighton to London to collect it. You were arrested before you could take possession of the gun. When you were searched, you had the money to pay for the gun. Applying the relevant Sentencing Council guideline, I think that this terrorism offence falls into the A1 category.
Had Little been successful in his plot, it would have been the first terror attack in London since Sadesh Aman stabbed 2 people in Streatham back in 2020. Nearly 3 years later, and counter-terrorism police are ever more concerned about the growing threats of grassroots extremism.
What we don't know is when he was actually radicalised, but what we can say is since our investigation began, he was clearly looking at extremist material online, he was in contact with other people, and so over a period of time he developed this extreme Islamist ideology.
Do you want the brick?
The number of people being flagged for radicalisation has grown dramatically in the last year, and even though today one terrorist is behind bars, the fear is that those falling prey to extremism may succeed where Edward Little failed.
And Kath, this is just one of many plots that the police have had to foil recently.
That's right, Duncan. And I mean, this year we've seen 159 arrests for terrorism-related activity. Of those number, 42 were charged with terror offences. However, it's worth noting that this figure is down by 42% since last year. But, and there is a but, there are still people who are planning to carry out acts of terrorism. We've seen an increase of 6% of the people being referred for radicalisation and extremism. That number is 6,000 this year alone. So even though we've seen more arrests, more plots being foiled, police are still concerned. And as we've seen from this case and many others in the past, there is a danger. If you're radicalised, you could carry out a terrorist attack.
Kath, thank you very much.